Hello chess friends and welcome to Azarov's chess channel and welcome to a very important chess tournament that's going on now these days. It's of course the US Chess Championship and this format is a rapid one, so the players will play online, so over the board chess is so far not possible because of this virus situation. I'm a little bit sad because we have seen also that this tournament, this Altibox Norway chess tournament, was I think a great success, but we shouldn't rush into this tournament over the board. I think we should keep calm. Still, chess can be played at least over the net, and still we shouldn't force anything. I think it's a good decision to continue these tournaments online. We'll see what will happen with this situation. I think in the future we can expect again some over the board tournaments, but still it's not simply the time of that. So as I said, this will be a one round robin in which we'll see the top grandmasters Wesley So and Hikaru Nakamura. Unfortunately for us, Fabiano Caruana is not playing. I'm not sure what's the reason behind it, but I think if Fabiano would have played this tournament, that he would be one of the favorites to even win this. In the last tournament, Hikaru Nakamura won the US Chess Championship, and in this tournament, he's not playing maybe so well, but still, he has many great games to play. He has only 3 draws out of 3 games. On the other hand, Wesley So is playing really incredible tournament. In the first 3 rounds, he had a perfect score. He won all of his 3 games. Really, I'm not sure what his rating performance is, but I think it's at least 3,000 or something. So great performance by Wesley So. So that's why I decided to show you another great game from the round 4, in which Wesley So played with black pieces against Sam Shankland, also a respected grandmaster from the USA. So let's check out now the game. I think it was really a cool game in which Wesley So played really such a great tactic, incredible what he played, but there were also some inaccuracies in the game, in his game, and of course in some Shankland's game. Without revealing you the result, let's just skip to the game, because here d4 played by Sam Shankland. We have knight to f6 by Wesley. We have c4 and e6. After knight to c3, we have bishop to b4, the Nd5 Indian defense. And okay, there are now several choices to play. Maybe the move queen to b3, queen to c2, some classical lines, knight to f3. In the game, Sam Shankland played the very aggressive Kmoch variation, f3. It is, of course, a similar structure like in the Samish attack, if you're familiar maybe with the Samish attack against the King's Indian. But here, Wesley So plays a very aggressive move in the center d5, or in some occasions, you'll see that black is proceeding with the move c5. I think that this move c5 is more often played in top grandmaster level, but d5 is also very interesting in the game a3. Played by Sam Shankland, and here after bishop takes c3, b takes c3, and now c5, played by Wesley So. Okay, let's stop and evaluate the position immediately. The position is dynamic, and the pawn structure is of course already challenged in the center, but there is always one problem of white in these positions. It's always this move f3, and this move f3 always takes the natural square for the knight. Although you're getting this pawn central control with the potential e4 move, in some occasions this f3 really can take this most important square for the knight, and you will have always a little bit a loss of tempos in order to secure the king. I'm telling you this because this will be, I think, a very important factor of this particular game. In the game c5, c takes d5, played by Sam Shankland, and we have now knight to d5. Also, e takes d5 is a possibility, but I think this particular line can be met with something like bishop to g5, and then with potential e4 pawn breakthroughs. Okay, but in the game knight to d5, and I think Magnus Carlsen won one game against Vichy Anand in this particular line in the World Championship match in 2013. This knight is a very I would call it like it's sort of provocative knight, because you really want to play after the move knight to d5. We want to play the move e4, but e4 is already risky because you always risk some c takes d4 ideas and followed with c takes d4 and queen to a5. That stops a little bit white's progress, white's development. So that's why here Sam Shankland played also a very interesting idea, d takes c5. We have now a double pawn structure. We have also the bishop pair on the board in the game, queen to a5, played by Wesley So, and now comes very aggressive move e4 immediately. So okay, it seems now that black can maybe take the pawn on c3, but it's a very risky line because after queen to d2 you have troubles to get out with your knight. After something like knight to c6 we have bishop to b2, and now after trades of queens you see bishop to g7 will happen, and I think this is a perfect position for the bishops because the position is not symmetrical. First of all, what we should notice, because we have now a 4 versus 3 situation here on the king side. Maybe here black has an advantage on the queen side with this 2 versus 1 situation, because black will of course take the pawn on c5, but bishops love really this positions in which when we can create maybe here a pass pawn situation on the king side, and the bishop is of course a long range piece. The bishop can battle on both sides, so that's why I think in this particular line the bishops are much better, although the evaluation is slightly better for white, but I think from this point on white has a comfortable game. So that's why after the move e4 here, Wesley so played knight to e7, keeps the position a little bit more complex because these are still weaknesses. We can maybe take one of these pawns in the continuation of the game. We have really the pawn islands. These are really clear targets of blacks here. Bishop to e3, here castling was played. Queen takes c3 is maybe a choice, but king to f2 here is perfectly fine for white, because white has now finally king security, and now we can maybe kick away the queen with rook to c1. We can still develop with knight to e2, knight to d4 is also an option, so that's why here Wesley so plays really first a calm game, castles, and now queen to b3. Here Sam Shankland is trying to hang on to this extra pawn that he grabbed in the beginning of the game. We have queen to c7 and now bishop to b5. Now e5 by Wesley. So this is really a prepared line. This line has been played many times in chess history. When I noticed that Wesley so played this move e5, I already thought that he was preparing something, because it's obvious that he wants to play, of course, the move bishop to e6. Challenging the queen on b3. In the game, knight to e2 was played, and now comes this idea, bishop to e6, and we have now c4. This was a very risky choice by Sam Shankland, because it keeps a little bit, I think, the tension on the board. You have always blocked out your bishop on b5. The bishop is endangered, although you cannot play a6 immediately, because we will move the bishop to a4, and b5 is not a possibility, because we can take always en passant. But it's still an endangered bishop. I hope you realized. Still, you have to get out with your queen somewhere in order to maybe improve the position of the bishop. So c4, a really risky move. In the game, knight to c6 played by Wesley. So if you try maybe to take out this knight, it's not a problem. We will simply play knight to c6, and still I think you haven't improved the position here from white perspective so much, because we will play in one particular moment of the game, I think, knight to a5, and we'll take this very weak pawn on c4. That's the risk when you advance pawns. Then the pawns can also be an object of your opponent's attacks, although you want to create spaces with your pawns, but it's sometimes very risky. So after the move knight to c6, here knight to c3 was played by Sam Shankland, and this gives now here Wesley saw a great opportunity with the move knight to a5. Here maybe even castling is a good choice, at least securing the king instead of this move knight to c3. This gives now Wesley so a nice really attacking flow, because Wesley so is not missing this types of position. He realized, of course, that the king stayed simply too long in the center and played now knight to a5, of course attacking the queen, queen to b4. Here Sam Shankland desperately is trying to hang on to this extra pawn, but now again knight to c6. If you play again bishop takes c6, we see knight takes c6 will recapture the knight again, and again I think with his opposite colored bishops that white, even with the pawn up, doesn't have so much opportunities to win the game. Still, these are really weaknesses in the position, so I think that here something went wrong for Sam Shankland in the game. He tried queen to a4 and now a6, kicking away the bishop. You see the risk with locking this bishop. Now you have to take bishop takes c6. And pause the video now and try to find really the stockfish line. The question here is, should we take the bishop or should we take the pawn on c4? Try to see this for you at home. It's really an interesting line that Wesley So has prepared here and that he saw. Okay, I hope you could have found this move, because it's of course, when I set up this question like this, it's of course knight takes c4. Wesley so sacrificed the piece, but for the initiative, as I said, Sam Shankland stayed simply too long with the king in his center. Sam tried here bishop takes b7, but now here Wesley so plays another great move. First knight to e3. We're not bothered by the bishop on b7. We're giving up the rook in the game. Sam Shankland took bishop takes a8, but now comes really the critical moment of the game. Here, again, pause the video and try now to see really the best continuation. As we usually like to say, let's give it that test your might here. Test your might in chess. Find now really the best continuation. It's really not so easy to see the next best move, because it's really an aggressive move. We see now that, of course, white has a whole rook up, but it's not a problem about rooks. It's really about this king's activity and the king's security. I'm not sure what, as I said, went wrong here for Sam Shankland in the game. Wesley so played really the accurate stockfish move. It's the move queen takes c5. We want to hang on to our knight. This knight is very, very well placed, because white cannot secure the king and white cannot castle. If you play something like king to f2, you're getting into the direction of the queen. But now, after the move knight to d5, Wesley so makes suddenly mistake, because in the game he played knight takes g2, which was a mistake. A better continuation, of course, you cannot see everything in this fast time format. In the game, knight to c2 would have been better, because there are now several choices. If you try king to e2, then you get bishop takes d5. This is a very important move to get rid of the bishop, and now you get queen to e3. You have to escape with your king, and now queen to d3 will happen. After king to c1, we can take out now this rook. What we want to do is, of course, never allow these rooks to get connected, because we are not allowing white to recapture the knight with the rook. So it's now obviously a bad game here for white, as the rook will come into the game. Here in this particular position, you could also try, after the move bishop to d5, bishop to d5, pardon me, let's go back. Here you could also try king to d2, but it doesn't help you anyway. Even if you take out this rook, again, it's a bad choice, because you have to get out with your king again, and now we can simply take here the bishop, and I think this is much better position here for black. The king is centralized, the king is endangered. We will find a way to get this rook into the game. We will find a way to attack the king here. The evolution is simply losing for white. So after the move, as I said, knight to d5, here Wesley makes the mistake, because it gives now opportunities for Sam Shankland to get back into the game, because he played first the accurate move king to f1. We have knight to f4, and now queen to c6. Here we want to, of course, undermine the pressure, because if we trade off the queens, then white is much better with the extra rook. Or maybe black can capture the bishop, but still it's up the exchange, of course, for white. So that's why Wesley so has to stay with the queens on the board and plays now queen to a5. And again, there are now basically not so many good moves here for white, but the best move here for Sam Shankland would have been to move rook to a2. And this move is winning because there is no way that black can maybe create some checkmate threats or do some perpetual checks. Because you can maybe try bishop to h3, that's the most aggressive line, but black cannot really create these checks. You can maybe try this move queen to h4, but still we will find a route to escape, and we can also bring this rook into the game. We can defend also with this rook, with rook to g1, rook to g3, and it's a lost game. So but in the game here, Sam Shankland makes now huge blunder. Rook to d1, as I said, rook to a2 is protecting everything, is protecting the second rank. That's the most important thing. Now bishop takes d5 was played by Wesley, so we have e takes d5, and now queen takes a3. There's nothing you can do to protect this. You cannot protect anymore the f3 pawn in the game. d6 was played in order to protect it somehow, but now Wesley so plays, of course, the accurate move. Here the knight is supported by the pawn. That's very important, because the knight is fixed. Now we can build our attack around this very well placed knight. There is, of course, the serious threat, queen to g2 or queen to e2. If you try to cover one of these squares, then you get checkmated on another square. So that's why queen to e4 had to be played. Now queen to g2, and we can grab now this rook. Here in the game, king to d2 was played. Now queen takes h2. Really this is falling apart really. The position here for white is desperately trying to escape with the king to c3, and now knight to e2. Here Sam Shankland tries king to c4. We have knight to d4. Very nice maneuver by Wesley So to get this knight towards the center. In the game d7 was played, but now queen to a2, king to c5. Even if you try something like king to c3, it doesn't bring you so much. We get another check. If you try king to d3, again we're getting another check, and now you get the fork even here on c3. So it's not an option here in this particular move. King to c5 had to be played, but now queen to a3, and after king to b6 and queen to b3 in this position, Sam Shankland resigned, because there is now a forced checkmate sequence. You cannot escape anymore from checkmate, because you could try maybe here king to a7, but we get simply this one check. Queen to b5. Now we get the queen again here, and now we can take the bishop. That's the most important thing. Now we get the rook into the game, and now the queen and the rook, of course, are building this very important checkmate pattern. So after rook to b5, this is now really forced checkmate sequence. The game would have been over, but as I said, after the move queen to b3 in this position, Sam Shankland resigned. So this is really incredible. Wesley So has 4 out of 4. Is now really the favorite to win this one. Congratulations to Wesley. I'm a little bit happy that really that Wesley is performing so well, because it seems to me always that Wesley So can play much better than sometimes his results in tournaments are. He's always a dark horse in the tournament, as I mentioned in one of my previous analyzed tournaments. So I'm thinking that he can really perform so well, and maybe he can win this one. I wish him all of the best, but I wish also some other players really the best. It's a really nice tournament, and we'll see also what Hikaru can do, but still he has to catch up now with Wesley. Wesley's really dangerous in this tournament, and we'll see now what will happen in this very nice tournament. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Great attack, although it was with some inaccuracies, but we should understand that this was really this fast time format. Great attack by Wesley So to sacrifice the bishop to get this knight on c4 and creating this dynamics in the game. Great performance. If you want to see some other commented chess games from some other tournament, check out my commented chess games links. Here's the link. And if you want to see maybe the Altibox Norway chess tournament that was played a couple of weeks ago, you can also check out this link. And if you want to see maybe the best chess games of all times, check out my best chess games of all time series. And if you like this content, you can also subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.